I'll never forget, the judge looked straight at me and said, "Chris Buckland, 2 years imprisonment." My immediate reaction in my head, obviously I didn't say anything, was that's a bit of a touch, because I was told to expect anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So my barrister, he definitely did his job, or he was lying to me about the sentencing guidelines, whichever. Now, I'd spent time in police cells before, many times overnight, and I've been transported by a prison bus or Securicor bus into court before, but never to prison. So the handcuffs went on in the dock. I get taken to the cells under Aylesbury Crown Court, and they're like little dungeon cells, the only way to explain them really. They're like a brick arch, a very small brick arch. I almost had to duck to be in there. And they put me in with another guy who had come out of prison for the day to do a court hearing and appear in court. I was chatting to him, and he said, you know, he can't believe that he had to come out of prison and go to court. It was messing up his daily routine. And that got me thinking a bit, maybe prison's not what I thought it was. Why would he prefer to be in prison than come out for the day? Didn't make much sense to me. So I was asking myself a few questions about what was going to happen. Obviously I had a lot of friends that had been in prison. They told me roughly what was going to go on, who to speak to, and how to conduct myself. I'm not sure that they all gave me the best advice in the world, but eventually the other guy had his court appearance, came back, waited an hour or two, and we were told that we were leaving for HMP Wood Hill. We was put on the bus, on the prison bus, and we arrived at the induction part of the prison, or reception, sorry, I should call it, and all my belongings were handed over. I packed what I was told to pack by my barrister: toothbrush, razor, etc. Obviously a razor wasn't, they wouldn't even let me take nail clippers in actually, because Wood Hill was an ACAT prison at the time. It happened to be my local holding jail, because first offence that I'd been really caught for, and it was fraud. I should have been a DCAT prisoner. So my plan was go into prison, wait for my DCAT to come, go and spend the rest of my time in an open prison. That would be lovely. It didn't quite work like that. I'll explain why a bit later on in the video. Now, we got in there. I was strip searched, had to drop and squat. They check all your orifices, etc., in case you're bringing in any contraband. And back then they had this funny chair. It's like a metal detector chair. You have to sit on it, and it tests for anything that you might have hidden up deep inside yourself. They don't have those anymore. Last time I was in prison, it was a X-ray machine, which takes a picture on the spot, and they can see inside your body, see if there's anything in there. Now, I was sent to the induction wing. Sorry, no, I was sent to the first night centre first. And I think I spent a couple of nights on the first night centre, not knowing what to expect. So I'm in a prison cell now on the first night centre. Behind the door, it's opened up, and they put this other guy in who was being a bit scatty and a bit jittery, jumping around, and I thought, oh, here we go. I was a bit worried about him, because he just had that look in his eye, and he was moving around funny and that. Now, I was 15.5 stone, I was into my weightlifting at the time, so I was a big guy, but I was in unfamiliar circumstances. Now my mates around me or any of that, you know, I'm locked in a cell with this guy, thinking, what's he gonna do next? Anyway, after talking to him for a little while, it turns out he was in there for domestic abuse. So I figured that he was no threat to me, as I wasn't a woman. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people like that in and out of prison all the time. So I got my head down, not the most comfortable of beds in prison, and spent a couple of nights on there. The next morning I got up, so I had a shower, come out of my cell. There was a pool table and some lads playing pool. They obviously been in and out a few times. They seemed to know all the officers' names, etc. The officers knew their names. Then I was moved onto the induction wing, which you spend a week or two on, just to familiarise yourself with the prison routine. And I was put in a cell with a guy called Mooney. He's a little guy, he was funny. He said, don't worry. He was half my size, this fella. He had a few years on me though, and he was a great guy, you know. He kind of looked after me when we got into prison. I have fond memories of that man, and I hope he's all right today. But yeah, he said, don't worry, Chris, don't worry. I know everybody in here. You'll be fine. I'll meet you to a few people. So I'm like looking at this this little guy thinking, yeah, thanks, mate. But he did. He introduced me to a couple of people, made me feel a bit more comfortable when we were on the main wing. He actually slept for, I think, about 2 days solid because he'd been on a bit of a binge on amphetamines, I think it was, before he got to prison. So we've then been moved from. So I spent a couple of weeks on there, just getting used to the ins and outs of prison life, learning how to do canteen, how your phone calls operate. I had blue phones on the wings back then. Now they're in your cells. You can make a phone call with a PIN number, but on the wings it was a PIN number on a blue phone, and there was only about 2 or 3 on each wing. Now, in Woodhill they put us on Unit 5, which I didn't realise was actually like the drugs wing, or not the full vulnerable people's wing, but people maybe their first time in prison and stuff like that. So I was on the 3s, which is the 1s is ground floor, 2s is the next floor, and then the 3s is the next landing up. And it's kind of a rectangle wing with officers' office in the middle that ran up. And yeah, there were some interesting people in there. I was 2 cells down from a guy that was called Sean Mercer. Now he was quite infamously in prison for shooting that poor little 5-year-old boy in Liverpool. So that's, I'm not saying that for any other reason, and that's the kind of prison that I was in. It was an A category prison, and I was in there with murderers. I was in there with some real serious kind of people. But we all kind of got along. So I'm on the wing, doing my day-to-day business, which is getting up, getting breakfast, getting locked away again. It was basically 23-hour bang up. The alarm would go off all the time in Woodhill. Like I said, it was an ACAT prison. There was always an alarm going on. If the roll count was on, they'd roll count you all the time. I started going out on exercise to build up the courage to go on the yard, because you hear all these things about prison yards and that. It's not like that. You're only a bit of a weirdo on a prison yard if you walk the opposite direction to the way everybody else is walking. Got myself involved in the education program there, but before I could do any courses, I had to do like a level 2 maths and a level 2 English to show that I was competent. And then I started studying, I think it was bookkeeping after that, or computers in Woodhill. So I've been in there about a month. I'm really settled in now, but there was a new guy turned up in the cell next to mine. So I was out on the wing one day, the door was shut. Generally with a new person, they'll shut behind the door for the day and they're allowed out the next day. So I asked someone what his name was, and they said, I'm not going to mention it now, but they said, I actually knew this guy from a few years beforehand. I'd known him for some years. We were quite close friends a long time ago. And I'd heard that he'd got himself involved in heroin and crack, which to me at the time was something that I'd never been involved with or never been around. So anyway, I got him moved into my cell, and Mooney moved out. He moved in with another guy. It was all amicable. There was no rows about it. He knew that I had a friend in there. So my friend came in. He was on a lot of methadone at the time, and he kept bringing trouble to my cell, to be honest. I wrapped around him a little bit. I knew his parents. I'd see his parents on visits, and they said, "Oh, look after him, etc., etc." But he brought a lot of trouble to my cell. So I actually then bumped into another friend. We were out in the walkways when I was moving down to education one day, and my other friend, he was put on the wing next to us. I can't remember which wing it was now. It was just up from Unit 5. It's the next one across the yard, and I requested a move over to there, and the officers let me. They allowed it because I knew this fella, and I wasn't getting on, obviously, with my cellmate at the time. Well, we weren't disagreeing, but I wasn't happy in there with him. Now, I moved over there and I got banged up with a guy that he really showed me prison. He really showed me what it was all about, how you can and can't get away with certain things, how to watch out for the officers. It was all that Epra and hooching in the bathtubs. In the shower block, there's actually a bath. I mean, it's filthy, you would never take a bath in it, but it was ideal for filling up with warm water and putting a hooch bucket in it to keep the hooch warm for the day. And he kind of showed me the ins and outs of prison, how to flick Subutex. He was on Subutex at the time, and you could flick it up into his tooth. So he would get his meds in the evening through the door. As soon as the flat was shut again, he would have flicked it up in there. He'd jump off, I'd jump off the bed, go and check the door, because you can see down the slit in the door, make sure that no one was coming back. He'd take the Subutex out, wipe it on a mirror, It would become like a paste, obviously, where it mixed with your saliva. Then he put it on the heat pipe. So in the cells there, when you come in the door to the left, you've got a toilet. There's no door in it, it's just a toilet. Then there's a sink, and then you had a bunk bed here, a little tiny desk, and a small TV, and obviously a barred window at the end. Now you can more or less touch the sides of the prison cell like that. When you're on the top bunk, when you're lying down, you can certainly touch the ceiling. They're not nice. They're not the cleanest of places. Obviously, we kept it as clean as we could. But he was saving up that subby-tech, so he would then sell that on the wing. So I learned about how to move in prison, how to make a few quid while I was there. Obviously, I wasn't going to jump on that because I wasn't getting subby-tech at the time. I wasn't on any particular substances. Drink and cocaine before I went, but nothing harder than that, and I certainly wasn't a daily user at that point. Now, the Tottenham riots happened in London when I was in Wood Hill, and I'd had a few problems with some of the officers. There'd been a few shouting matches with them, etc. And like I say, I was supposed to have been decatted, but I got caught with some cash in my pocket. In an ACAT prison, that doesn't go down very well. On one of my other videos, the HMP Coldingley video, where I've actually been back to prison to give a talk about my life to the men in that jail to say that you can change and to show them a bit of positivity. The officer at the gate or on reception there that let me in actually remembered me from Wood Hill some 15 years beforehand. And he was quite impressed that I'd turned my life around, you know. So I've got caught with this cash on the wing, and I can't really say how much it was or too much about why I had that in prison, but I did, and I got caught with it. So I lost my decat basically instantly. I had to go on governor's report, which is referred to inside as a nicking or a licking. So I got a nicking and lost my decat. I became CCAT prisoner. When the riots happened in Tottenham, I got sent to the prison officers. Like I say, I'd had a fallout with a couple of them, and back in the day, they were tough guys. You know, they weren't like the youngsters that are in there now running the wings as officers. they were handy. You know, you couldn't cross them. They would bounce you off a sink or a chair or a bed or a bunk. People coming out of their cells with broken arms or being shoved downstairs and all sorts of stuff back in the day. But there was respect. There was respect. Anyway, so I'm due to be shipped out, and every day they started coming to my cell going, "Buckman, you're being shipped out," and they take me down to Moves, put me in a holding cell waiting to get on the bus, and I'll be there all day. The bus would come, the bus would go, everybody else would get taken and I wouldn't. Then it was back to the wing, we got it wrong, and the next day the same thing. It happened for the third day. They came to open me up, and he said, "Buckman, you've got to go." I said, "I'm not going anywhere." I said, "You're sending me down there every day. You're just messing about with me." But anyway, they came and wrapped me up, so basically jumped on me. Took me down to the holding cell, and the bus did come that day. And I've never spent so long on a prison bus in my life. When there was a few of us in there, so gradually everyone's coming into this holding cell. One lad, he really needed the toilet. It's like a cell, you know, I don't know, 10 foot by 10 foot with 4 or 5 guys in it, and a toilet in the corner. Now, one of the lads was like, "I really need to go to the toilet," and not just for a week. Everyone's like, "No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that in here. We'll only be on the bus for about an hour and a half. Wait till you get to the next prison." So he was like, "Okay." Anyway, we got on the bus, and the count came in wrong at Wood Hill again. So we're now between the 2 gates. So when you leave prison, you go through one gate that shuts behind you. There's another gate to the outside world. The bus gets checked with all mirrors, all the paperwork and forward, but the alarm went off. We were stuck in that holding area there, in the prison bus, in our own little separate pods for about an hour and a half. We left Wood Hill and headed up towards Leicestershire. And this guy's then said that he really needed the toilet, so they've given him a bag that has like cotton wool in it, where you can urinate in it. Nah, he didn't need to urinate. He actually went to the toilet and done a number 2 in his bag, and stank the whole bus out. That caused a bit of a fuss. We were up on our feet trying to rock the bus over. You can't rock them over, it would seem. That was just a little memory that popped up there. So we're getting close to Stocken, and the guards on the bus have said, "Stocken aren't going to let us in. they're not going to let us in because we're too late. They shut the door at 4:30. They're going to send us to a police station. So we all kicked off. I think everybody was up rocking the bus, just being a bit of a pain to the driver. Obviously, he had to slow down, maybe even pull over, because when he was going around roundabouts, we were trying to roll the bus in protest, and we didn't want to go to a police station overnight where, you know, we wouldn't have a proper bed, as it were, in prison, and we wouldn't have a TV. Those things become, when you're in prison, those things become quite something, which is why I think they have tellies in prison. One, it keeps the mind occupied, and two, if you misbehave, they will take it off you as a punishment. I know people that go into prison, the first thing they do in their cell is take the telly out because they know they're going to misbehave, and they don't want the officers to have that kind of control over them. Now, I never saw the point of that. I was like, enjoy your TV till it gets taken. That was my kind of outlook on it. So we got sent. They actually rang Peterborough prison, and instead of taking us to a police station, they took us to Peterborough, where we spent the night there. And when you first go to prison, you get an overnight pack. You get some tobacco or some chocolates. It's allowed up to X amount to spend as like your induction process. So because we were inducted into the prison, we were allowed this. So I grabbed a pack of tobacco, knowing what I'd learned in Woodhill through my old cellmate, that I could sell that because I already had my own tobacco. I could cut that in half, sell it, and double it every week, which is what I did when I was in Stocken. So we've left Peterborough in the morning. I've got my first night pack. I've got my new pack of tobacco. I've got my pack of tobacco. We got to HMP Stocken, which is up in Leicestershire. And finally, like the next day, I mean, we was on that prison bus the day before. I think it was 4.5, maybe 5 hours in total. It's a long time to be locked away in a tiny little box like that. And again, when we got to Stocken, obviously you're stripped, you're in there, you're in the system anyway, so don't go too mad. But we've got first night packs again, so I got another packet of tobacco. When I hit the wing the next day, what you do is you chop what you used to do, you're not allowed to smoke in prison anymore, so you chop the tobacco in half and you give it to someone, and it was what we call double bubble. So every Friday they'd have to give you twice as much back, so a full packet of tobacco basically, or you give them a quarter of a pack, they give you half a pack back. Then you can build that up over time and sell it for cash. Someone will put cash into your spends account from the outside. It's a lot easier now with phone banking, but there was none of that back then. Someone would send spends in and you get it paid off. You sell off 5 packets, and then you start again, and you get sort of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 quid coming into your account every now and again. It was a nice little earner while you're earning sort of 70p a day in prison for doing education. So when I was in Stocken, I did do lots of education. I had a great education program. Now I've got 2 A levels actually. I've done computerised accountancy, and I got a first class pass, 96% and above I think I got in that. And I've done business finance. Again, I got a first class pass in that. And I always thought it was quite amusing because I was in prison for fraud, although it was a DVLA fraud and not like a monetary fraud. I went in for fraud, and they taught me how to be an accountant basically. I'd done a level 2 qualification in bookkeeping and a few other little bits dotted about. That's how I passed my time. Now, the gym there was really good, so when I'd done full-time education, I got extra gym. So I was going to the gym 5, maybe 6 times a week. So I came out of there absolutely fit as a fiddle. But some of the stories I heard from the people I were in, there was youngsters in there, you know, they're doing 5, 10 years for possession of firearms and that. You know, back then it was when it all started kicking off in London with the firearms, and Mac-10s were flying about and all that sort of stuff. And it was my first sort of glimpse into that kind of gang culture, and how young people were getting into those. Bearing in mind, I'm 28 at this point. You know, I've been around for a few years, but the youngsters that were coming up through seemed a lot crazier than I ever was when I was at that age. But in prison, you generally, you know, you get in Stocken, got up in the morning, cell was open between 7:45 and 8 o'clock. You had to go and get your breakfast pack in the morning, so you had to get up and go and get that when you missed your breakfast pack. Back to my cell, eat my breakfast, get ready, then go then go down to the moves, and they move you around and take you down to education or to the gym, whichever particular day of the week it was, or what time of the day I do that in the morning, come back for lunch, you're locked up over lunch, out for education or gym again in the afternoon. Then you're back, then there was, in Stocken, then there was Soch, which was on H-wing when I was first there actually. It was a rough wing, H-wing. There was rats running around inside the wing, and actually during my stay there, H-wing was condemned and it was shut down, and we had to move on to B-wing, which turned out to be the lifers wing. So when I was on the wing in Stocken, I'd been there for about a week, and there was the Stocken riot. So there was actually a riot on the H-wing when I was in there, and I remember ringing my mum the day after we'd all finally been let out. When I say riot, I mean a riot. The officers disappeared, there was people being beaten up, there was blood, there was violence, there was bins were being set fire to, toilet rolls were being set fire to, thrown around. It was chaos. And eventually the Mufti squad come in, I don't know what the real name for them is, but they're balaclava, they've got shields, batons, and they just battered everybody basically, and one by one got us back behind our doors. I didn't partake in the riot, but I was there watching it. And like I say, there was rats running around inside that prison. It was a tough wing, a real tough wing to be on. One of my friends, he was on the other spurs, there were only 2 spurs on that one. I had to go through there to get to the exercise yard. He was complaining of this smell in his cell. I said, Chris, come and smell it. And they're all single cells then in that prison at the time. I don't know what they are now. And I've gone in this, and it's just this smell. It was like death, it was horrible. Anyway, about a week later, this guy's living with this smell, no one's doing anything about it. He got rushed to hospital, and when they investigated in his air pipe, so there's blowers that blow air into your cells, you've got like relatively fresh air, or some sort of law, I guess. There was a dead rat in that, a decomposing rat had been blowing the rat's decomposing sort of smell into his cell. It made him very sick. I never saw him again, I don't know what happened to him. But those are the kind of conditions that we were living in, you know. I got put on basic for a little while. I went to punch an officer. In fact, I went to punch a senior officer. I can't remember. I was getting really wound up one day, and he came to my cell to find out what was wrong, and he wound me up even more. And I went to hit him. I pulled it at the last minute and punched the wall, but that was it. Straight nicking for that, straight to governor's report, and I got put on basic. So they took my TV and everything off me. I'm on 23-hour bang up. I was only allowed out for a shower or exercise, but my friend next door, he was the wing cleaner. He managed to sneak me in the telly. So when I go for a shower, the wing cleaners were still out while the basics, like while I was on basic, you're not allowed out with everybody else. And they were still around, so get escorted to the shower, locked in the shower. And the wing cleaner, my neighbour, he popped the TV. So when I got back that night, he bang, bang, bang on the wall. He said, put your mirror out. So you got little plastic mirrors like that to shave in. And I'll pop it out the window and you can talk to each other like this. He said, check under your bed. I've looked, there's a TV. He said, don't do it till about 9 o'clock. And then you can plug it in, all the wires are there. So he done that. Then a couple of days later, I shouldn't smile at this really, but he was a nice enough guy. He banged on the wall. He said, check under your bed. So I'm thinking, yeah, I've got a TV for the night. It was 2 cans of paint. He managed to get into the stock cupboard where the cleaning room was, get a couple of cans of paint and a paintbrush. So I spent, I think it was 2 weeks on basic. I'd sneak these cans of paint out from under my bed, and I painted my whole cell different colours. And every morning the officers would open me up and they'd say, you know, I can smell paint in here, what's all that? I was like, no, they must have been able to see it. So I had stripes down, and I'd done a nice job of it, as nice as you can in a prison cell. But like I say, then we that wing got condemned, and we moved over to B wing, which was the lifers wing. It was all set up completely differently. It wasn't open landings. It was corridors with cell doors opposite each other, a central staircase at the end, and then down to showers and social room, where I spent a lot of time honing my pool playing skills, and grew my love of pool. I've played pool since I was a kid, so I did get to play pool quite a bit in there, which was good. But that's basically the roundup of the first time that I went into prison. I've been in there since, and it was in more recent years. It's a completely different place now. It was tough back then, and it's tough in prison now, but it's tough in a different way. It's full of drugs. It's full of spice. I'll upload a video over the next few weeks about my second time in prison with the 15-year gap or 12-year gap in between, to give you an idea of what the two different sentences were like. Thank you all for watching. Obviously watch the DVLA fraud video. I uploaded it about 2 weeks ago, which explains why I had to go to prison in the first place. Now, the reason I do these videos is not to glorify crime, it's not to give people ideas that you can make money out of crime, it's to show that my life of crime led me to be into these positions in prison. They led me into heavy addiction, led me into crack cocaine and heroin use on a daily basis, to the point where I had to be admitted into a rehab for 24 weeks, and I actually done an extra 24 weeks as well. I spent nearly a year in rehab to change my life and the life of crime and addiction that I once lived. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please do like and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any comments about what I talk about, or any comments in general, any questions in general, pop them in the comments section. I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thanks again.